Mr. Justice Vipin Sanghi, Honorable the Acting Chief Justice, my esteemed sister and brother judges, Mr. Chetan Sharma, the Additional Solicitor General of India, Mr. Murari Tiwari, Chairman of the Bar Council of Delhi, Mr. Mohit Mathur, President, Mr. Jatan Singh, Vice President, Mr. Abhijat, Secretary of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Sanjay Lau, Standing Counsel, Criminal Government of NCT of Delhi, Ms. Nandita Rao, Additional Standing Counsel, Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, Standing Councils of the Central and State Government, Executive Members of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, Office Bearers of the Bar Council of Delhi and other district bar associations, senior advocates, members of the bar, ladies and gentlemen. We have assembled here today to bid farewell to our esteemed colleague, Justice Vipin Sanghi, on the momentous occasion of his elevation as Chief Justice of the Uttarakhand High Court. In the course of his judicial career spanning 16 years and more, Justice Sanghi has delivered several landmark decisions and judgments in many areas of substantive and procedural laws. Justice Sanghi has been part of several assignments dealing with constitutional, civil, taxation, criminal, IPR, matrimonial, tender, and service matters, amongst others. Throughout his distinguished career as a judge, Justice Sanghi has delivered landmark decisions, some of which deserve special mention. In the suo motu COVID-19 matter, the bench headed by Justice Sanghi played an instrumental role in ensuring that the administration and the courts were accessible to meet the grievances of the people of Delhi in real time. Day-to-day hearings, which often went on into the wee hours and were of great significance in order to tackle the health crisis that visited Delhi at that point of time, were held. The situation was so grave that Justice Sanghi stepped up to the podium to keep the doors of the courts open and to ensure that relief was provided to all those who were needy in their time of adversity. Justice Sanghi famously remarked, "Will we shut our eyes to people dying in Delhi? Enough is enough. Who is asking for a dime more than allocated? Don't do this, don't do that. We don't appreciate it." Something, however, which never came into the public domain is that during all this time, his own close relatives were suffering from COVID. And despite that, Justice Sanghi devoted all his time to address the grievances of the citizens of Delhi. While acting as a humanist judge, Justice Sanghi made sure that the grievances of the people of Delhi regarding hospitals, oxygen, vaccines, and medicines were met immediately and instantaneously. Full stop. It is unfortunate that Dr. K.K. Agarwal, his brother-in-law and a celebrated doctor who was himself a troubleshooter for himself and the extended family, but also to the people of Delhi at large, succumbed to COVID. Amongst others, Justice Sanghi held the court continuously for weeks and passed numerous orders to overcome the scarcities that I have described here and above and which are within the knowledge of all gathered here. Justice Sanghi passed an order which benefited every suffering citizen by ensuring that hospitals had adequate oxygen, medicines, beds, ambulances, and the testing facilities were ramped up. Justice Sanghi further passed orders to make sure that the hospitals augmented the number of beds and that regular update was available in regard to the beds to all concerned on a dedicated portal. It was also directed that hospitals and governments set up their own oxygen plants, and the government was required to issue a notification with respect to the compulsory licensing of drugs so as to make sure that life-saving drugs were available to the most disadvantaged sections of society. His lordships shall always be remembered for being pro-citizen and a humanist even amongst during the course of a pandemic. The present reference would be incomplete without mentioning how invested Justice Sanghi has been in the welfare of this city. Justice Sanghi has kept a close watch on various matters, including but not limited to the controlling of mosquito infestation by constituting a dengue task force. Justice Sanghi further pulled up municipal corporations over non-payment of salaries to doctors, health workers, sanitization workers who were at the front line. It is because of his concern for balancing the equities of all shareholders and stakeholders that Justice Sanghi, over the course of his tenure, passed several orders to ensure that authorized street vendors and hawkers are permitted to earn their livelihood, although at the same time ensuring that there was no illegal encroachment which would impede the rights of citizens. To assuage problems being faced by the kin of families who lost their lives during the pandemic, Justice Sanghi in Sunil Kumar Eledia versus GNCTD directed the authorities to disburse ex gratia amounts to construction workers and even to those whose registration had lapsed in the meantime, but was subsequently renewed by the board after due verification. The court further directed the Delhi Legal Services Authority to monitor compliance with the directions issued by the court on an almost regular basis. In yet another notable judgment, cited as Delhi Sarkari Ration Dealers Sangh, Delhi versus Commissioner Food and Supplies, GNCTD and others, Justice Sanghi held that though the GNCTD is entitled to frame a scheme for doorstep delivery of rations to the beneficiaries, however, the same has to be done by the GNCTD from its own resources in compliance with extant laws. In Poonam Sethi versus Sanjay Sethi, one of the many judgments authored by Justice Sanghi, he famously quipped, "Not only must justice be done, it must also be seen to be done." The decision itself is a testament to that adage. In the instant case, the family court had directed the father to pay maintenance for the minor son, but refused any relief with regard to maintenance of two daughters who had attained majority. The bench, led by Justice Sanghi, while allowing the appeal, held that simply stating that the daughters are major and earning a livelihood without adducing how and how much is a non sequitur. Justice Sanghi gave due consideration to the welfare of daughters and remarked, "The court is hopeful that the mother would play a positive role in bridging the gap between the father and the daughters, and that he would be welcomed at the wedding functions of his daughters." Yet another noteworthy judgment by Justice Sanghi was Jujar Singh versus Messrs. Hots Industries Limited, in which he held that an execution petition is maintainable in respect of orders passed under Order 39, 1 and 2 CPC. The court placed reliance on Section 36 of the CPC to render that decision by stating that the provisions of the code relating to the execution of a decree shall, so far as they are applicable, be deemed to apply to the execution of orders as well. As the executive chairperson of DALSA from the 8th of February 2021 to the 26th of June 2022, Justice Sanghi's vision was to promote an inclusive legal system and to ensure meaningful access to justice to the marginalized sections of citizens of Delhi. It was Justice Sanghi's expert guidance and foresight that during the unprecedented times of COVID-19, DALSA stood the test of time and launched a number of initiatives and projects to reach out to the doorsteps of every stakeholder in the justice system. I am reminded of the lines of John Marshall, who said that the power of the judiciary lies not in deciding cases, not in imposing sentences, not in punishing for contempt, but in the trust, faith, and confidence of the common man. Justice Sanghi followed that saying, and in terms of the mandate of Article 39A, undertook some major initiatives as the executive chairperson of DALSA. Some of the initiatives taken by Justice Sanghi was the inauguration of front offices and chief legal aid defense counsel system as a pilot project in Dwarka District Court in March 2021. Under the able guidance of Justice Sanghi, DALSA also implemented the chief legal aid defense counsel system, which ensured that professional and improved legal aid was provided in sessions trial cases on the lines of the public defender system that obtains overseas. The project has yielded great results and is now being replicated in other districts of Delhi. Justice Sanghi also presided over the Pan-India Legal Awareness and Mega Outreach Campaign in November 2021 to commemorate the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. A 45-day-long legal awareness campaign was spearheaded by him, which encouraged the legal aid fraternity to cover the entire city of Delhi and spread the message of inclusivity by way of varied activities, including cycle rallies. Under his guidance, DALSA conducted 2,477 legal awareness programs, which successfully benefited around 1 crore of Delhi's citizens. Justice Sanghi was also a part of the bench that directed release of 9,900 inmates during the COVID pandemic from the jails in Delhi. The release of the said inmates eased the overcrowding of the jails in Delhi and ensured that the spread of the pandemic was curtailed. Further, during the COVID-19 imposed lockdown, Justice Sanghi presided over the launch of a dedicated helpline for domestic violence victims. Justice Sanghi also presided over the distribution of dry ration, cooked food, sanitary pads, sanitizer, masks, milk, fruits, etc., all daily needs for the citizens of Delhi. Justice Sanghi further directed registration of construction workers and made sure that vaccination for marginalized sections, sex workers and laborers was initiated. Justice Sanghi eventually also created legal awareness and legal literacy through virtual platforms. Justice Sanghi's efforts also include the employment to inmates, acid attack victims, and transgenders. DALSA, in collaboration under his stewardship, initiated the Delhi Yuva Scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Yojana, and other skill development initiatives, imparting vocational training and organizing job fairs for inmates. Justice Sanghi inspired the legal aid community to channelize their time and energy in the best possible manner by including them in skill development and sports programs. DALSA organized Sports Week from 14th of February 2022 to the 19th of February 2022 for male juveniles lodged in the observation home at Mukherjee Nagar. Justice Sanghi also presided over the launch of an OJAS Learning Center at the Tihar prison in March 2022 to provide better legal services to inmates and expedite their skill development. During the tenure of Justice Sanghi, 5 national Lok Adalats, 1 special Lok Adalat, and 1 Ghar Ghar Lok Adalat was organized by DALSA. Remarkably, awards worth INR 2337 crore were rendered in almost 4 lakh cases. On the 14th of February 2021, for the first time in Delhi, Ghar Ghar Lok Adalat was organized for traffic challans so as to ensure that justice reached the doorsteps of citizens. And there was expeditious disposal of cases even during the pandemic. Under this campaign, approximately 1.7 lakh challans were disposed of by 98 benches all across Delhi. In each one of these Lok Adalats, Justice Sanghi personally visited various Lok Adalat benches in different court complexes of Delhi. These initiatives bear clear testament to Justice Sanghi's commitment towards the cause of justice. Justice Sanghi is one of the most humane and conscientious judges of our time. Not only is he an outstanding and hardworking judge, he is also known for affording patient hearing to counsel. Justice Sanghi will be remembered for his legal acumen, judicial discipline, and most of all, benevolence on and off the bench. Whilst bidding farewell to Justice Sanghi, I, on behalf of my brothers and sisters, and in my own behalf, extend best wishes to him for a very successful tenure as Chief Justice of the High Court of Uttarakhand. Farewell, brother and Acting Chief Justice, Justice Sanghi. Jai Hind.
Honorable the Acting Chief Justice, and to be Chief Justice in a matter of ours, our very favorite, our very respected, our very revered Justice Vipin Sanghi. Please see for yourself, sir, the packed courtroom number 1 on a vacation day. And this is your signature that you have left in this court. People have cut their vacations. People have displeased their spouses to be here. Yours truly included. And I can hear a benign smirk by my sister, Madam Gunjan, who is here as also a testament to my lords for a very affectionate farewell that we seek and are giving. In the pre-lunch session, there was a great personal bonhomie. Justice Manmohan spoke from his heart, as he always does. Justice Mridul, notwithstanding a bad throat, gave a 15-minute, uninterrupted speech also from the heart. That throats could be healed in a matter of hours, or rather in a matter of 1.5 hours, is also testament, my lord, to your lordship's affection and goodwill. This is known as turnaround time for throats. Coming to the formal part of it, Justice Mridul, Justice Manmohan, all senior, all honorable members of the bench, Madam Gunjan Sanghi, our very favorite Mohit Mathur, whose first page I have borrowed so that I do not miss out on the propriety of citing names. He said, Dada, don't delve any further, lest you leave nothing for me. I said, don't worry. I shall endeavor to only read the first page. Shri Jatan Singh, Vice President, who has just landed from Singapore well in time, our effervescent and a very loving Abhijat Secretary, distinguished members of the Executive Committee, former office bearers of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, former judges, all those who virtually see this on time, live, our very favorite Justice G.S. Istani, who has come here. Welcome, sir. My esteemed predecessor, whom I see, Madam Maninder Acharya, all friends assembled here, senior advocates, and of course, reverting back, I'm sorry, Shri Murari Tiwari, Chairman of the Bar Council of Delhi. Tiwari, sir, your name should have been up front. My apologies. Office bearers of the District Bar Court Bar Associations, dear senior counsels, relatives of Justice Sanghi, all assembled here during vacations. We are here by choice. We are here by affection. We are here by respect. We are here out of love. Your Lordships remarked in the pre-lunch session, "Ye meri janbhumi bhi hai, ye meri karm bhumi bhi hai." I would just add, now, sir, the bhumi is shifting to Dev Bhumi. And of course, once you go there, you will bring the exacting standards that you have set here to the bar and the bench at Uttarakhand. The taste of the medicine may not be very sweet, but it shall inure to the benefit of Uttarakhand High Court for all times to come. You would have raised the bar as if it were in a manner of a pun speaking. Sir, my Lord Justice Madul has read out in extenso the case law as lawyers would want it to be referred to. I need not repeat. I will only say, I asked Justice Sanghi one day, I said, "Sir, I cannot prepare a speech. This is my bane. This is a disqualification. And when we walk on the thin ice of extemporaneous, you are bound to falter. You are bound to falter. That's the scheme of the extemporaneous." So he said, "Prepare some short notes." I said, "That is another manner of preparation." He said, "Okay, for you, you do something. You prepare some bullet points and refer to them." I don't know whether I have tried to make them all out, but yes, sir, the few things that stand out, and before that, I will refer to your dietary habits. There is a division on whether your Lordship's dietary habits are this way or that way. I'm not going to, because to each his own. But the Shastra says, "Ahar shuddhi, tattva shuddhi, dhruvormati." It is not as if your Lordship's quote unquote fastidiousness about diet is something which is very, very unusual. The dietary habits that your Lordships follow, and I vindicate in full measure, are well-founded, sir. And for all the jokes or all the Karelas and Theplas referred to in the pre-session, in the pre-lunch session, your Lordships will be more strict, because in Devbhumi they say the two banes that the Pahadis carry are there for all to see. And I am sure that Yatha Raja Tatha Praja, once you are there, you will ensure that not only the bench and the bar are more sane in the evening, you will also ensure, sir, that their dietary habits are in tune with your Lordship's habits. It is my firm belief, sir, that the legal system can only work out with the cooperation of the bar and the bench and the dedicated staff. We are proud to be part of the most reputed and responsible institution like the High Court. And what beauty, sir, this has. In the morning session, there was a reference that the coordinate, Your Lordship's Justice Palli was not to be seen. Now, this is an irony of fact which just came to my mind. Mr. Justice Amit Mahajan was one of the standing counsels, facing on behalf of the central government the hearings which went on till 11 o'clock, and yours truly was, of course, a part of that. I learnt my powers of concentration the hard way during COVID. Justice Mahajan is at your Lordship's back. Justice Jasmeet Singh is collaterally placed, and yours truly is still in front. We saw immeasurable loads of concentration, indeed, if I may say, meditation, day after day, from almost 11 o'clock, 11:30, till 11 o'clock at night, day after day, even on a Saturday, even on a Sunday, your Lordships were at it. And Justice Mridul has said what had to be said. I need not say anything further. An outstanding judge, your Lordships were and are. The hallmark of your jurisprudential character was and is clarity. I have seen that, sir, when you were a counsel, and when you saw me running from pillar to post. I could see those one-liners that you aimed at me, standing there with Mr. Gambhir on that famous, Mr. Mathur, we can think of renaming that pillar as Justice Sanghi's pillar, because you were always there, sir. The bar has so loved you that outpourings like this cannot be termed as unnatural. Clarity being your forte, sir, was part one, and part two was morality and ethics. In any given case, the threshold measure of adjudication by your Lordships were only this. Equity followed thereafter, and the law did take its place alongside equity. But what was not ethical and what was not moral would not pass the muster of your Lordship's adjudication. This I have seen on either side in the 16 glorious years that I and my colleagues have been appearing before you. A very conscientious, very passionate, very committed, a great visionary, of course, goes without saying, a man with impeccable character, a fine human being, a multi-talented person, a true leader. In the tenure of the acting Chief Justice, I do remember a phrase which was said in this very court. You were truly, quote unquote, acting, sir. The wealth of decisions bear testimony to your great hard work. Your vision was always very clear when it came to PILs, when it came to tender matters. On policy, your Lordships dealt with it at a distance. PILs also meant that your Lordships would not ordinarily interfere, but yes, you always came to the help of the underdog, of the last man standing, of the poor man who deserved justice. The Lordships went out of the way to ensure that justice reached him, not that he had to cry. He just beckoned the court and justice reached him where he was. And as the additional solicitor, I can vouch for that fact, and your Lordships can also vouch for me. When your Lordship's turn comes, please do that. Your administrative qualities are well known. Significant changes in the administration of the court came in handy. For the bar, you were very, very friendly, sir. always a very patient ear to any of the members of the bar, more so the president and the vice president who could approach you at any time. You always received them. And testimony would also bear out that when we in large numbers sit in the canteen, we would of course remember your benevolence for having given those extra sanctions for which the Mr. Mathur will speak on his own turn. Before lunch, sir, you had said Kabhi alvida na kehna. Of course, I prompted Justice Manmohan to say कि अब कुछ कार्यान्वित भी हो जाए क्योंकि सुना है कि आप बहुत अच्छा गाते हैं. You sang, sir, though one line, but it was very meaningful. आपको अलविदा यहाँ कोई नहीं कह रहा. आपकी पदोन्नति पर आपको हम हृदय से आपका स्वागत करते हैं. आपकी उत्तरोत्तर आपकी प्रगति की कामना करते हैं. आप देवभूमि की उत्कर्ष पर जा रहे हैं, इसलिए हम सब यहाँ से काफी संख्या में हम में से लोग आपके साथ जाएंगे. कोई मजबूरी नहीं है, ये आपका अपना खिंचाव है. और इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ जय हिंद. ऑल द बेस्ट, सर.
My Lords, the Acting Chief Justice of the High Court of Delhi and the Chief Justice Designate of the High Court of Uttarakhand, my Lord Justice Vipin Sanghi, Honorable Justice Siddharth Mridulji, Judge, Delhi High Court, other honorable judges on the bench, Honorable Justice Sistani, former Judge of the High Court of Delhi, Learned Additional Solicitor General Shri Chetan Sharma Ji, Mr. Jatan Singh and Abhijat, Vice President and Honorary Secretary of the High Court of Delhi Bar Association, distinguished members of the Executive Committee and the former office bearers present today, Mr. Murari Tiwari, Chairman, and the other distinguished members of the Bar Council of Delhi, Ms. Nandita Rao, Additional Standing Counsel for the Government of NCT of Delhi, other office bearers of the District Bar Associations, senior counsels, and my dear friends from the bar, family and friends of Honorable Justice Vipin Sanghi, ladies and gentlemen. As the summer vacations are coming to an end, we are today faced with an appointment most eagerly awaited yet heartrending. Though news had broken a little while earlier of Justice Sanghi leaving us, as the day finally arrives, the heart feels unsettled as a most trusted pillar of this Honorable High Court and an institution in himself departs for his journey to the Devabhumi for appointment as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Uttarakhand. The hilly, chilly state of Uttarakhand has sent many good men and women to this High Court bar over the years, and perhaps this is their way of exacting compensation by taking our mountain of a judge, Justice Sanghi, for themselves. My Lord leaves the bench of this court after 16 years of glorious service, one of the longest tenure perhaps, though his association with this court and this bar is far older, nearly 32 years. After taking over from Honorable Justice D.N. Patel this spring, Justice Sanghi held the reins this scorching summer as our acting Chief Justice after we reopened properly for the first time after a tumultuous tryst with the COVID-19 pandemic. Though it were for a short duration, seeing your work at the helm was an absolute privilege, sir. My Lord, the bar expresses its utmost disappointment at your demitting office so soon. On the flip side, we could not be more elated that my Lord enters a new league in his sterling career. As President of the Bar, I take the liberty to gloat that Justice Sanghi is as fine a judge as they come. And I add that you, sir, have been an unwavering elder brother to our fraternity in all these years that I have known you in this noble profession. Justice Sanghi was born in 1961 in Nagpur and came to Delhi in 1965, schooling at DPS Mathura Road, graduating therefrom in the year 1980, along with my elder cousin. And that's why I've known Justice Sanghi for a little while more than what I have spent in this profession. And I have therefore always called him Dada, which in our usage is for an elder brother. He then pursued a course I too had opted for, graduation in mathematics honors in Delhi University. And thereafter came his tryst with law, formally that is, for his pedigree is no secret. He is the son of legendary Shri G.L. Sanghi ji, a leading senior advocate of Delhi, and grandson of Shri V.K. Sanghi ji. With such big shoes to fill, my lord pursued LLB from the Campus Law Center Law Faculty, University of Delhi. In 86, Justice Sanghi had joined the bar and thereon began a journey spanning nearly 4 decades, which makes my lord truly as old as the hills he intends for. And providentially, the very first Chief Justice to see the bench of this glorious court at its fullest capacity for the very first time in its history. It gives me immense pride as our family only gets bigger and stronger as the years go by. Years that allowed us to share a world with someone like you, sir, who began his journey as an advocate, and now you leave us as Chief Justice designate. But even this full house will always miss you, your irreplaceable charm and grace. I recollect first my memory of Justice Sanghi as a lawyer. My lord has been a thorough man since day one and was crystal clear with his briefs. Over a period of time, he came to be identified as a reliable senior counsel in the city after his designation in 2005, though it was only for a brief period before he was elevated as a judge of this court. The way he would present his case as a counsel, which I had occasion to brief him in a civil matter, in a company court in that time, it used to be in court number 11. His arguments were succinct, and he put his interpretation of the law as crisp and concise. As we are all aware, sir, you have kept the same standards for lawyers entering your courtroom. Taking an opportunity to recall Justice Sanghi as a judge, I am not repeating any of the judgments which my Lord Justice Mridul has already mentioned. On the criminal side roster, where I had the most occasions to appear before him, I commend the passion and compassion displayed by Justice Sanghi even for jail inmates who used to petition before him. My lords followed the principles of equity for all cases without bias or prejudice. He had an human element, while at the same time he ensured strict adherence to the principles of law. Not only we lawyers and judges, but the whole country witnessed your proactive and practical approach, not only to the law, but towards life in the midst of the second wave of COVID-19. We all remember how you breathed air into the lungs of this city, choked by an unprecedented oxygen crisis last summer. A period of absolute devastation, which is still fresh in our memories. It was a moment when the full might of the law came to the aid of our citizens, and Justice Sanghi spared none who stood in the way of medical aid, reaching the public and the crisis to be met at the same time at the fastest. As hospitals had mere hours worth of oxygen left, Justice Sanghi, along with his bench partner, were the sentinels who came to their rescue and burned the midnight oil, literally to ensure speedy relief for the affected people. I still remember I had then asked, as the representative of the bar, the Honorable Chief Justice, to prepone the vacations by a month, so that as no effective work was being possible during this second wave. It was you, sir, who reminded me, Mohit, it's not just this fraternity that matters, but the entire city as a whole. And not one man or woman ought to be left behind in our march forward, a sentiment from a true son of the city. And as Justice Mridul rightly said, sir, you kept intact the faith of the citizens in the system of judiciary. And most important of all, I recollect my most cherished memory of Justice Sanghi, the humanist. This brings me to the immense gratitude the executive committee wishes to express to you, sir. You have proved to be a most trusted and protective friend of the bar, ensuring fullest cooperation and synergy between the many limbs of our institution as well as the bench and the bar. Justice Sanghi was always alive to the real-time problems and tribulations faced by the fraternity during the last few years, and never lost his patience in the face of our seemingly endless complaints, and remained a watchful protector, a role that was tailor-made for him. I stated earlier that our family had gotten bigger, and before he leaves, Justice Sanghi ensured that the family has enough space to eat together too. Special thanks to the BMCC for a speedy execution of the enlargement of our beloved cafeteria, as Mr. Sharma also pointed out. This brings me to the tough part, the part where we say goodbye. Justice Sanghi, I wish you, on my behalf and on behalf of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, a hearty Dilli Wala farewell. It was an absolute privilege to learn from you, to work with you, to argue before you, and to trouble you as a representative of the bar. We also cannot contain our excitement that you are now a Chief Justice, an honor meant for you, sir. And the High Court of Uttarakhand is fortunate to have your guidance in the coming future. As you breathe in the crisp, cool air of the hills from tomorrow, sir, keep us in your memories. Remember us and return to us as soon as and whenever your assignment so permits. After all these years, it is safe to say this is home for you. And in response to what you earlier said, sir, हक से आपके पास आएंगे और आप भी जब चाहो हम पे हुक्म जता सकते हो और हमारे पास आ सकते हो. Might I add, don't get too used to the clean air there, Dada. आपको दिल्ली वापस आना है. In the meantime, we will only envy the pleasant detour you have taken. I pray Providence brings you back to us soon. Let me only warn the bar at Nainital that the school may be in session, but the headmaster is coming and will bring with him the standards witnessed by us in the last 2 decades. With that, sir, we wish you all the very best of health and pray that you have a comfortable stay at Nainital and return to us refreshed and ready to enter yet another league. Godspeed, sir. Thank you.
Honorable Mr. Justice Vipin Sanghi, Acting Chief Justice of this Honorable High Court, and the Chief Justice Designate, Uttarakhand High Court, Honorable Justice Siddharth Mridul, Honorable Justice Manmohan, Honorable Justice Suresh Kait, and other Honorable Judges of this Honorable High Court, Honorable Justice G.S. Sastani, former Judge of this Honorable High Court, Mr. Chetan Sharma, Learned Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Sanjay Rathi, Honorary Secretary, Bar Council of Delhi, Mr. Rajiv Khosla, Member Bar Council of Delhi and former President of Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Mohit Mathur, Mr. Jatan Singh, Mr. Avijat, and other office bearers are also here, Mr. Nagendra Benipal, Nikhil Mehta, Mr. Dhan Mohan, Madam Kajal Chandra, and other office bearers of Delhi High Court Bar Association, Madam Nandita Rao, Additional Standing Counsel Criminal, Mr. R.N. Mittal, Senior Advocate, and his son, Mr. Puneet Mittal, Mr. Kirti Upal, Mr. Arun Bhardwaj, Mr. Jayant Mehta, Madam Sonia Mathur, Inderbir Singh Alag, Mr. N. Hariharan, Madam Maninder Acharya. I noticed Mr. Vivek Bharti, Registrar General from Uttarakhand High Court, he is also here. Other senior advocates and family members of Honorable Mr. Justice Vipin Sanghi. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Though it is time to say goodbye, but I will not say it for the simple reason that there are no goodbyes. Wherever you will be, you will be in our hearts. And moreover, tomorrow, majority of bar leaders, including myself, would join oath ceremony of your Lordship as the Honorable Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court. And further, I would pray to the Almighty to get your Lordship nominated very soon as a Honorable Judge of Honorable Supreme Court of India. Today, I stand before you all and consider myself privileged as I deliver this gratitude speech addressing our beloved Honorable Acting Chief Justice, whose work resonated with us as he paved an exemplary path during his remarkable tenure in this Honorable High Court with his unbiased approach towards any matter that came in his way. The same was given due recognition, and thus we have assembled here to celebrate your Lordship's new endeavor of holding the office as the Honorable Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court, where we shall see your Lordship setting an equally commendable and equitable benchmark. In the year 1983, your Lordship joined the Law Faculty, Campus Law Center, University of Delhi, for a bachelor's degree in law. After completing law in the year 1986, your Lordship got enrolled with Bar Council of Delhi as an advocate. It is further a matter of great privilege and honor for me to deliver a farewell speech in the honor of my Lord, being an alumni of Campus Law Center, Delhi University, from where your Lordship got graduated in law. As all my previous speakers have already spoken about the landmark judgments delivered by your Lordship, I would not further reiterate the same. Thus, it is time for me to express my gratitude to our distinguished Judge of this Honorable High Court, whose timely intervention gave a push to the collective efforts to tide over the pandemic crisis during the previous years. From lengthy court proceedings over weekends to urgent late-night hearings, your Lordship went beyond the call of duty to hear out the helpless public who turned to the judiciary when everything else failed. Your Lordship's passion for justice and concern for human rights speaks volumes when, during COVID-19, relentlessly held the court for weeks and ensured that the best of his efforts to come up with every possible existing solution to reduce the gravitas of the situation. It was due to your activeness and constant pressure that the administration was on their toes and made sure that the grievances of the people of Delhi regarding hospitals, oxygens, vaccines and medicines were met intentionally. I am a witness to those hearings when the matters were being taken up by your Lordship. Your Lordship extended all cooperation from judicial side to the Bar Council of Delhi in helping the distressed members of the bar. At that time, Mr. Ramesh Gupta, the then chairman, got arranged oxygen cylinders also and other medical amenities with the help of other office bearers and members of the council. The methods adopted by your Lordship in tackling grievous circumstances and the outlook in dealing with the matters have etched your place in our memories. Your Lordship not only just showed what it takes to be a justice bearer, but withstood the ground. Hailing from Delhi, your Lordship, adaptiveness and awareness of the locally existing issues and the working of the bar drove you further to work for its betterment. Hence, your Lordship tenure as Acting Chief Justice of this Honorable High Court was seen to be opportune and favorable. My Lord personifies the ideal of judicial excellence and treat everyone with respect and consideration. My Lord's opinions are models of clarity, no matter how complex the issues and how confusing the facts are. My Lord, never forget that judicial opinions must be understood by the parties and the public, and that our opinion must provide guidance to the trial judges who implement our rulings. My Lord's careful craftsmanship is evident in all of his decisions, large and small. Your Lordship is a fine human being, a lion-hearted person, a judge par excellence. Your Lordship will always remain in our hearts. I, on my behalf and on behalf of Bar Council of Delhi, extend my best wishes to Your Lordship for your upcoming judicial ventures. Thank you.
My Lords, Honorable Acting Chief Justice Shri Vipin Sanghi, Honorable Justice Mridul, Judge Delhi High Court, Honorable Justice Manmohan, Judge Delhi High Court, Honorable Judges of the High Court, Additional Solicitor General of India, Mr. Chetan Sharma, President Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Mohit Mathur, Vice President and Secretary Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Jatin Singh and Mr. Abhijat, Chairman Bar Council of Delhi, Mr. Murari Tiwari, respected senior advocates, members of the bar, and esteemed members of Honorable Justice Sanghi's family. We have gathered here today to bid farewell to one of our most beloved and respected judges, who is leaving our court tomorrow to lead the Uttarakhand High Court as its Chief Justice. Like all farewells, this is a bittersweet one. While we are thrilled that Honorable Justice Sanghi would be joining the ranks of the bold and independent Chief Justices of the Uttarakhand High Court, we cannot but acknowledge our sorrow for losing one of the most refined, compassionate, just and independent judges. A firm and soft-spoken judge whose court rarely saw either him or any lawyer raising their voice. Each matter was taken up chronologically and the lawyer heard patiently. Justice in your Lordship's court was not a race against time. Whether the litigant was an inmate aggrieved by alleged custodial harassment or an industrialist aggrieved by the rejection of a tender, both were of equal importance to your Lordship and were given the same attention and consideration. As a single judge, Justice Sanghi, wide his orders, ensured proper inquiry in jails and passed orders to ensure all CCTV cameras were working. The division bench, led by Justice Sanghi, gave a landmark judgment that rejection of tender must be by a reasoned order, thereby bidding farewell to the one-line rejection system, ensuring transparency and accountability to the process. The power wielded by either party or its counsel was of no consequence to Justice Sanghi, who seemed blissfully indifferent to these considerations and presided without fear or favor. To borrow a word coined by Justice Sikri, who recommended the judiciary should have a feminist consciousness, defined by him as the virtues of compassion, intuition, and patience, I think we would all agree that Justice Sanghi epitomizes the feminist judicial consciousness in his judgments and his court demeanor. His vast knowledge of law and respect for judicial precedent ensured his judgments were clear and legally sound, yet they always reflected that extra care that ensured they were truly just and not merely legal. Justice Sanghi was also a judge who neither patronized nor held prejudices against women lawyers or litigants. His judgments in family matters are a testament to his modern outlook to marriage. Honorable Justice Mridul has already cited some of the judgments which show his gender equity, so I will not repeat them. At a recent function organized by the Women's Bar, Justice Sanghi was the first Chief Justice to matter-of-factly acknowledge that there were so many competent women lawyers that it was no longer difficult to recommend women for elevation as judges. We were always given a level playing field in your Lordship's court. I would be remiss in my duty if I do not acknowledge the role of the bench led by Honorable Justice Sanghi while India was reeling under the second wave of COVID. The ordinary person felt that God had also abandoned them. The bench led by Justice Sanghi virtually kept the High Court open 24 hours and assured the citizen in Delhi that the Constitution was there to rescue them. Hospitals applying for oxygen delivery, mothers praying for funeral space, activists indicating the legal vacuum for COVID orphans, citizens aggrieved by shortage of medicines, The bench led by Justice Sanghi heard and decided these issues with urgency. People would approach the court as late as 7 p.m. and orders would be given as late as 12 a.m. It was a Gandhian moment of moral clarity that the purpose of a high court was to protect the fundamental rights of citizens and uphold the rule of law in times of crisis. We must also acknowledge Justice Sanghi's invaluable contribution to this institution in your Lordship's short tenure as our acting Chief Justice. Justice Sanghi inculcated institutional humanism at our High Court by holding a weekly full court reference for the honorable retired judges and senior advocates of this honorable court who had passed away. It was a sensitive reminder to all that the legacy of this court was not built in a day, but by the hard work of generations. The epitome of this humanism was marked by a unique full court reference held for the over 400 lawyers who had passed away during and from COVID in the past 2 catastrophic years. The ordinary lawyer, whose integrity and discipline is the backbone of the judicial system, remains largely invisible. This full court made them seen and mourned by an institution which had meant everything to them. I could carry on the whole evening, but I would still not do justice to the legacy that your Lordship leaves behind in this court. I think it is best encapsulated in these lines by Rabindranath Tagore. Man's abiding happiness is not in getting anything, but in giving himself up to what is greater than himself, to ideas which are larger than his individual life, to ideas of his country, of humanity. And if I may dare adapt this masterpiece to the ideas of our Constitution. With these words, sir, on behalf of my Learned Standing Counsel Criminal, Mr. Sanjay Law, the Learned Standing Counsel Civil, Mr. Santosh Tripathi, both of whom are heartbroken that they couldn't return in time, the Learned Additional Standing Counsels Criminal and Civil, including myself, who your Lordship is aware, you are one of our most beloved and respected judges, the learned public prosecutors and civil panel counsels of the government of NCT of Delhi, I sincerely bid your Lordship farewell. Our best wishes shall follow your Lordship in all his future endeavors.
Justice Siddharth Mridul, Justice Manmohan, Justice Suresh Kait, Justice Mukta Gupta, Justice Anu Malhotra, members of the Administrative Committee, Mr. Justice G.S. Sistani, retired, my brother and sister judges, Mr. Chetan Sharma, Additional Solicitor General, Mr. Vivek Bharti Sharma, Registrar General, Uttarakhand High Court, Mr. Murari Tiwari, Chairman, Bar Council of Delhi, Mr. Mohit Mathur, President, Delhi High Court Bar Association, Mr. Jatan Singh, Vice President, Mr. Abhijat, Secretary, Delhi High Court Bar Association, Ms. Nandita Rao, Additional Standing Counsel Criminal, Government of NCT of Delhi, other executive members of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, office bearers of the Delhi, District Bar Associations, senior advocates, district judges, and district and session judges, law secretary, my family members, my staff members, law researchers, ladies and gentlemen. The time has come for me to say goodbye to you all and leave this Premier High Court after practicing here at the bar for about 20 years and after administering justice, as I saw it, for over 16 years. I got into the profession not entirely by choice, but by force of circumstances. I come from a family of lawyers. My grandfather, late Sri Vipin Sanghi, practiced law initially at the Jabalpur High Court, and when a High Court bench was established in Nagpur in 1936, he moved to Nagpur. That is where my father, late Sri J.L. Sanghi, studied, taught, and practiced law under the tutelage of late Sri A.S. Bobde, senior advocate, who was later appointed as the Advocate General of the state of Maharashtra. On his encouragement, my father moved to Delhi to practice in the Supreme Court, where he established himself. Though I was born in Nagpur, I moved to Delhi when I was just about 4 years old For most part, I studied at Delhi Public School, Mathura Road. That pretty much makes me a Dilliwala. I was fond of physics and maths at school and so took up BSc Mathematics Honours at the Delhi University. I wanted to pursue engineering but could not get admission to an engineering college either on the basis of my class 12 marks or by clearing the IIT JEE entrance examination despite repeated attempts. So when I finished my graduation in 1983, I naturally flowed into the legal stream when I took admission in the LLB course at the Law Faculty of Delhi University. Our batch at the Law Faculty was very vibrant with many meritorious students who came from different academic backgrounds and cultures. We all gained in confidence and learning thanks not only to our professors but also our peers. The likes of Professor Hussain, Professor Madhav Menon, Professor Saxena, and Justice A.K. Sikri, who was then a member of this bar, to name a few, taught us the fundamentals of law. Thanks to the very good grounding we got, our batch has produced numerous civil servants, IPS officers, IRS officers, political leaders, army officers, about 20 senior advocates, and several judges. Even before I name some who come to mind, I apologize if I have missed out others. So we have Justice Siddharth Mridul, Justice Rekha Palli, Justice Najmi Waziri, Justice Yogesh Khanna, Justice Sudhir Kumar Jain on the bench of this court. Apart from Justice Koteshwar, Justice Naveen Rao and Justice Ratnakar Bengra on the bench of the Guwahati High Court, Telangana High Court and Ranchi High Court respectively. Several of our batchmates joined the district judiciary. We also have several high-ranking civil servants amongst us, including Sri Dharmen Sharma, Joint Secretary to the Government of India, who was also awarded the Rhodes Scholarship. The reason, I think, for this sterling performance of our batch as a whole was the clear fundamentals of life that our parents and teachers taught us right from our childhood till the time we graduated out of the law school. There were less complexities and diversions then, which gave us greater focus in whatever we did. I was, from my school days, a very shy person and avoided getting noticed in class. Even when I had the correct answers to questions put in the class, I did not raise my hand to answer for fear of being noticed. I never participated in any debates or declamations for this reason. Only when it dawned on me that I will soon have to face the courts, in my final year, I participated in the last moot court held for our batch at the law faculty. It was a great learning experience. I narrate this to highlight two things. First, look out for the silent fellows on the back seats and don't miss them or ignore them. And second, all you shy people, get rid of your shyness and take the plunge at the earliest, because unless you do that, nothing positive will happen. The legal profession is practiced in courts. Courts are like a theatre. Everyone, particularly the advocates and the judge, exhibit their skill for everyone present to see. You must turn out at your best and make an impression in whichever role you appear. You cannot cut a sorry figure. Be honest and straightforward. Remain grounded. Your humility will always be appreciated. Even more so if you are well prepared with your brief. My advice to the younger members of the bar is to watch the leading senior advocates argue their cases in court whenever you find time. Don't spend your time simply chatting in the canteen or the corridors. I remember following stalwarts like Mr. Fali Nariman, Mr. Soli Sorabji, Mr. Ashok Desai, Mr. Ramjit Malani, and many others into courtrooms they entered just to watch their performance. You will pick up courtcraft, the manner in which you should address the courts, how to deal with a difficult situation or a difficult judge, and above all, the law. You will learn the meaning of the law being discussed, its interpretations, and how precedents are cited and used in courts. This art cannot be learned unless you spend time in the courtrooms listening to stalwarts at the bar. Mr. Fali Nariman once rightly said that young advocates learn through the process of osmosis when they observe an advocate argue his case in court. I joined the profession in the summer of 1986 and initially worked with Sri Mukul Rodgi, my brother-in-law, in this court. He was such an inspiration, extremely confident and knowledgeable. He had the best court craft and salvaged the most difficult cases. He was not a designated senior advocate then, but was regularly briefed by other advocates and law firms and could match up to the best in the profession even at that young age. In his office, I learnt never to go to a court to attend a matter without the file and without reading the file. This meant that even if one had to take an adjournment or even a passover, one was able to answer some basic questions that the court may pose or may require a response on account of what the opposite counsel may say in court. This also meant that the court would know that here is a young advocate who works on his or her cases with sincerity, and that would also ensure that you would not make a wrong statement of fact in court, even unknowingly. This enhances the credibility of the lawyer in the eyes of the judges, which is so important. We, at all time, rely on statements made by lawyers at the bar and do not cross-check every statement of fact from the record because we would like to trust the members of the bar who appear before us. I may mention that we judges make a mental note of the manner in which an advocate conducts himself or herself in court, and we even talk about it amongst ourselves. This is how the reputation of an advocate gets built over the years. My advice to all the youngsters at the bar is to always keep this in mind. I believe that honesty is the best policy, and there are no shortcuts in life or in this profession. This is what I learned from my grandfather, my father, and even my senior and mentor, Sri Mukul Rodgi. On the suggestion of late Mr. Arun Jaitley, with whom I shared a very warm relationship and who always looked after me, I joined Mr. Rajinder Dutt, who was one of the 4 central government standing councils at that time. That was a wonderful learning experience and gave me immense exposure to appear in and argue cases on a variety of subjects. After working there for about a year, I resumed working with Mr. Rodgi and developed my own practice as well. I have very fond memories of spending time in his office, having lunch every day with him, late Mr. Jaitley, Mr. Rajiv Nair, and other chambermates such as Mr. Amritpal Singh Gambhir, and later Ms. Manandara Acharya, who is a former ASG and senior advocate. There was mutual respect and camaraderie in the chamber, which also produced the likes of Mr. Sandeep Sethi, senior advocate, and Mr. Ravi Gupta, senior advocate. As my own practice developed, I branched out on my own. Fortunately for me, guidance was always at hand for me from Sri Mukul Rodgi, my father, and even Justice Awadh Bihari, retired judge of this court and father of Sri Rodgi, whom I regard as Lord Denning of India. His judgments, you will find, are short, simple, and bring out his clear thought process and reasoning, apart from being very well grounded in law. After about 20 years of practice, I was elevated to this court as a judge on 29th May 2006. I may confess that I had no role to play in this. It was my father who felt that I have the temperament to be a judge, which led to my name being recommended by the Collegium upon his request. Unfortunately, he did not live to see my elevation, though my name was recommended during his lifetime and he was aware of the same. Soon after I got elevated, I realized how much hard work the judges of this court have to do. As an advocate, I used to think that come 4:30 p.m., the judges get into their cars and go back home. Only after my elevation, I realized the hours and hours of work put in by judges in their chambers and even in their home office every day, right from correcting and completing orders, dictating orders and judgments, and reading the files for the next day. I would not be exaggerating if I say that a typical working day of a judge is 12 hours or more. Considering the long hearings that we hold in many complex matters, many reserved judgments take several days to painstakingly pen down after going through several drafts. Judging is not an easy task and it requires time. The general opinion of the members of the public that judges have it too easy because they have a 5-day week and also have summer and other breaks is a result of their ignorance of the amount of workloads that judges carry, the way they work, and the kind of effort that goes into their business of judging. Practically every vacation or break that I have had ever since I became a judge has been spent in substantial part in writing or completing judgments. This explains why there is a flurry of pronouncements soon after the reopening of the courts after the breaks. I had the good fortune of opening my innings with Justice Madan Lokur. I then got the opportunity to sit with Justice A.K. Sikri, my guru from the law faculty, Justice Manmohan Sareen, Justice Mukul Mudgal, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, Justice Geeta Mittal, Justice Anil Kumar, and Justice Ravinder Bhatt. Each one of them had their own distinct style of working, and I learned a lot from each one of them. I cannot thank them enough for the learning that they have imparted to me. They were all very patient with me, gave me full opportunity to participate in the deliberations, and even respected me for my independent views, even if they did not always agree with me. The good thing about judgeship is that you learn on the job, and the bar is your teacher. I must say that I always found the members of the bar very well prepared, cooperative, considerate, and respectful, despite my ignorance in many branches of the law that I had to deal with as a judge. The members of the bar were very patient with me and kept upgrading my knowledge and broadening my horizons. When I sat on the single criminal bench, I was particularly worried, not having ever practiced as a lawyer on that side. However, I got full cooperation from the members of the bar, particularly the public prosecutors assigned to my court, namely Shri Pavan Sharma and Shri Manoj Ori, who now owns this bench. The only sensible thing I did was that on the first day I sat, I made known my handicap and expressed my willingness to learn from them. I requested the members of the bar to show me the legal provisions of the CRPC, the IPC, and other laws, and the judgments they wished to rely upon, even if they thought that they were elementary. I want to tell my young friends at the bar that with a little bit of effort, it is possible to upgrade your knowledge on any subject. But while doing so, please don't adopt shortcuts. Don't be in a hurry and take your time to understand the fundamentals as well as the finer nuances of the law, which is the subject of your study. I have also enjoyed heading the division benches, and while doing so, handling practically all jurisdictions. I had the good fortune of having as my bench partners Justice Deepa Sharma, Justice P.S. Teji, Justice Rekha Palli, Justice Sanjeev Narula, Justice I.S. Mehta, Justice A.K. Chawla, Justice Rajneesh Bhatnagar, Justice Jasmeet Singh, Justice Dinesh K. Sharma, Justice Naveen Chawla, and Justice Sachin Datta. I also got the opportunity to have several others as my bench partners due to exigencies of work, including Justice Waziri, Justice Jyoti Singh, and Justice Pratik Jalan, to name a few. I got full cooperation, support, and guidance from each one of them, and I shall always remain grateful to them for the same. I relied on each one of them to help write reserved judgments, and neither of them ever declined or failed me. I want to thank each one of them for their companionship on the bench. We have seen the number of judges in this court rise and fall over the years. The disposals of the court as a whole greatly depend on the working strength of the court. Low judge strength not only puts strain on the judicial system, but results in putting the serving judges through tremendous amount of work pressure. The entire burden, which ideally should be shared by the full complement of judges, falls on the reduced number of numbers in office. That slows down the disposals as the boards of all the judges get choked. It also has an impact on the quality of judgments that the judges deliver, as there is dearth of time to carry out research and work on reserved judgments. It actually robs the judges of the joy of judging. The process of appointment over the years has become more time-consuming and more uncertain. This has dissuaded many truly meritorious senior advocates and other advocates from giving their consent to be considered by the Collegium of the High Court for recommending their names for judgeship. In my humble view, this aspect needs to be urgently addressed if we wish to attract the best talent to the bench. Quite a few years ago, there was a time when we had a reasonable bench strength and the entire court worked full steam. During those days, this court actually saw a reduction in the pendency of cases. Unfortunately, the appointments did not keep pace with the retirements, transfers, elevations, and even the tragic demise of Justice Valmiki Mehta. We saw our numbers slowly going down. Resultantly, we also saw the disposals fall and the pendencies again started to creep up. The ongoing pandemic also put a spanner in the works, though I can proudly say that thanks to our already digitized records and functional e-courts and the dedicated computer committee headed by Justice Rajiv Shagdar and our computer branch, we quickly started virtual courts and kept functioning very efficiently. The courts were also able to take up final disposal cases which required urgent disposal. We were reduced to 29 judges in the recent past when we saw a quick recovery, and now we are 47 in number. Looking to the caliber and enthusiasm of the new appointees, many of whom I had the privilege of swearing in, I am confident that the disposals will soon overtake the fresh filings and we will again start seeing dependency reduce. I wish to request all members of the bar and all my colleagues to seize this opportunity and work in mission mode to dig deep and dispose of the oldest pending cases in the court with special attention to the criminal matters where the accused are in custody. The district judiciary is the backbone and face of the judicial system in any state. Our district courts handle bulk of the litigation in the NCT of Delhi. The first introduction and interaction of the consumers of justice is invariably with the district judiciary. It is therefore important that our district judiciary functions efficiently, honestly, competently, and independently. On account of Delhi being virtually a city-state and the better conditions of service here, Delhi has emerged as the court of choice for those aspiring to join the judicial service. We have seen some extremely brilliant people join our judicial services at both the ranks. I am certain that the judicial officers will keep in mind the huge responsibility that lies on their shoulders and shall deal with the litigants with compassion. I would like to emphasize that to earn respect, one has to give respect. I appeal to the members of the Delhi Judicial Service and Delhi High Judicial Service to give their best to achieve the objective of justice dispensation with honesty, integrity, independence, and efficiency, all with a human face. At this stage, I would like to share a realization which dawned on me on assuming office. I realized that we all hold this position as a public trust. It is that public trust that we have to discharge, and that can be done only with complete honesty. There is no room for any biases for or against anything, either in court or outside it. We cannot have, much less pursue, an agenda. Whatever functions we discharge, judicial or administrative, have to be discharged objectively on merit and merit alone. In my view, if the institution of judiciary has to achieve its intended goal of dispensing justice without fear or favor and in accordance with the Constitution and the laws, we have to function with complete integrity, honesty, independence, and competence. I am a firm believer in the existence of the Supreme Spirit. I can see how that Supreme Spirit has throughout guided me throughout my existence. Whenever I found myself at crossroads, that Spirit has shown me the way and salvaged my situation. I spend some time every day in prayer. I pray to express my sense of gratitude for all that the Lord has given me. I know that I did not deserve what I have been blessed with. It puts all my anxieties, stresses, angers, and all of the negative emotions to rest. It is like the process of letting all those negative energies getting earthed. The youngsters of today carry a lot more stress than what we had to deal with when we were young. I strongly recommend to everyone, particularly to the younger members of the bar, to try out this technique to relieve yourself of your stresses and keep yourself steadfastly on the rightest path. However, don't think that God will come and do your bidding without your doing anything except praying. You must do your duty to the best of your ability and leave the rest to the Almighty. I know I have been sermonizing all this while, but what else can you expect from a 60-year-old man? I have spent 5,872 days in this court as a judge till today. This I consider to be my great fortune. The only other judge who has put in a longer tenure in this court was Justice Prakash Narayan, who went on to become the Chief Justice of this court and served in that capacity for nearly 4 years and 7 months, as there was no policy then to appoint the Chief Justice from another state. While undertaking this journey on the Delhi High Court Express, I have seen 101 judges and Chief Justices board this train. At the same time, 65 honorable judges have deboarded this train during this period for reasons of retirement, transfer, resignation, elevation, and demise in office. Today it is my turn to get off the train. It would not be easy for me, having got so used to this court, first as an advocate and then as a judge. But I have to move on. And the good part is that I have been chosen to head the judiciary in one of the most beautiful states in India. It is considered as Dev Bhumi. It has the most revered shrines, and Mother Ganges beacons me there. I look forward to be with my new set of brothers soon, who are leaving no stone unturned to welcome me. Uttarakhand is a new state. Being in the Himalayas, many parts of the state are remote. There is so much scope to do good work for the people there. I have had a connection with the state for over 20 years now. I am also happy for this court, as Chief Justice Satish Sharma, who takes charge as the Chief Justice of this court. He comes across as a very gentle and decent human being, apart from being a great judge. He carries the experience of a Chief Justice. I am sure he will receive your full support and cooperation to keep the flag of the Delhi High Court flying high. Before I say goodbye, I must acknowledge those who have made me what I am today. My grandparents, late Sri Vishnu Kumar Sanghi, taught me what dharma is, not as in a religion, but as in rule of law. He told me stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata and the lessons they carried. My grandmother was pure love incarnate. She would play with her grandchildren like a child herself and pampered me and my siblings. My father was the oldest of 9 surviving siblings and carried himself fully aware of his role and responsibility as the Bhai Sahab to all his siblings. I learned from him how to be generous, patient, loving, caring, tolerant, and forgiving. I learnt the techniques of legal reading and interpretation of law from him. His manner of analyzing the law was very rigorous. But all that is minuscule. That is a minuscule part of what he taught me by displaying his aforesaid qualities every day. My mother taught me how to work hard for others, even when you are tired and exhausted, and how to look after the family and friends. Each of my uncles and aunts and my cousins have showered their love and affection on me and given me a great deal of confidence and sense of pride. My sister Vasudha and my brother-in-law, Sri Mukul Rodgi, have taught me how to be smart, professional, and well turned out. I can't thank Sri Mukul Rodgi enough for being such an inspiration. I really miss seeing him in action, as he cannot appear in my court. My second sister, Dr. Veena Agarwal, and brother-in-law, late Dr. K.K. Agarwal, have looked after me and the entire family whenever the need arose. After we lost Dr. Agarwal to COVID last year, we find ourselves completely lost whenever we need any medical assistance. My younger brother Vivek, who is settled in USA, and his family are a huge support to me and my family. He is the one I can and do confide in. My wife Gunjan and my parents-in-law have stood by my side and have always appreciated my convictions and principles. She has been my companion in happiness and sorrow, and she has given me 2 beautiful and loving daughters, Devangi and Chandrika. They are both married, and my sons-in-law, Utkarsh and Vivek, are loving, caring, and fully supportive of them. I must also acknowledge the influence that Mr. Arun Jaitley had on me. He was instrumental in conditioning my mind to think of judgeship. Justice Awadh Bihari and Justice Sikri not only taught me nuances of law, but also of life. Justice Sikri is my go-to man for resolving all my dilemmas concerning ethical conduct. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul taught me how to deal with cases swiftly, and has always voiced his support for what he considers right concerning me and others. Judgeship meant that I could not meet my old friends at the bar as frequently and as freely as I would like. But it also provided me with an opportunity to know and make friends with other judges. We were 5 who were appointed simultaneously: Justice Kailash Gambhir, Justice G.S. Sistani, Justice Mulidhar, Justice Hima Kohli, and myself. We enjoyed a special bond amongst us. I found in Justice Sistani a true friend, philosopher, and guide. The two of us, with Justice Hon'Ble and Justice Manmohan, met practically every day after a hectic day in court to have a cup of coffee together and unwind before again plunging into work. I have sorely missed their company ever since Justice Sistani and Justice Hon'Ble retired. Without our support staff, we cannot discharge our functions effectively and efficiently. I have been fortunate to have received very able assistance from my staff throughout. Ms. Ambika Sharma, Mr. Sunil Lakina, Mr. Bhupinder Singh Rohela, and Mr. Shriram have been very able private secretaries. Mr. Atul Sharma, Mr. Satish Gosai, Mr. Rakesh Sharma, and Mr. Lokpal have very efficiently acted as my court masters. Mr. Narottam has helped me find all the relevant books as my restorer. Mr. Nitin Khanna and Ms. Komal Dhawan served me very efficiently as competent stenographers. My usher Prem is the cutest usher in the High Court and very dedicated towards me. Ganesh, Puran, Rafiq, Harish, Narayan, and Ram have made life so much easier and made it possible to carry this load thus far. My drivers Govardhan and Jaiprakash are very responsible and careful drivers and are ever ready to serve. Mr. Naresh Garg, Registrar and my PPS, ever since I took charge as Acting Chief Justice, has rendered very good service even at late hours to make it possible for me to discharge my responsibilities as the Acting Chief Justice. My legal researchers have served me very well all along. I acknowledge the hard work put in by them, including by Abhipriya, Apurva, and Kriti, particularly in the last 3 months. I must also acknowledge the assistance rendered by Mr. Ravinder Dudeja, the Registrar General, and Ms. Aditi Chaudhary, the Registrar Vigilance, in this discharge of my duties as Acting Chief Justice. Mr. Kamaljeet Arora, who was serving as the Member Secretary of the DSLSA till recently, did all the hard work there and gave all credit to me. I am certain he will continue to discharge his duties in the administration of this court effectively, efficiently and diligently. I take this opportunity to thank the Registry for facilitating e-filing of cases, holding of virtual courts during the peak of the pandemic, and overall smooth functioning of this court on the administrative side, which allows us, the judges, to discharge our duties hassle-free. I express my gratitude to the filing and listing branches who were always available whenever required. I also thank all branches of this court and its staff members for their excellent support in my journey. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the officers posted in the 3 pivotal branches of this court: the Protocol, Medical, and PNP branch. These 3 branches work tirelessly and painstakingly all throughout the year, 24/7, rendering all kinds of assistance to judges so that they do not have to face any inconvenience in their personal spheres of life. They are readily available on call day and night and always give their best. They did a tremendous job, especially during COVID times. The medical branch worked tirelessly and performed all their duties during COVID times, even at the risk of putting their own lives at stake. Congratulations and accolades are also due to the officers working in the General Administration and the BMCC branches for the good work they've been performing. I also apologize to each and every one I may have hurt by my word or action. I am human, and to err is human. I would only say in my defense that my intention was never to cause any injury out of anger or malice. I leave this court with no regrets or complaints. I wish you all well. God bless you all. I sign off with the words, "Ab tumhare hawale Delhi High Court साथियों." Namaskar.
Anji.